What's going on, guys? Welcome to Hyperspace Hype, episode number 22. We are going to be discussing not an overabundance of things, but we got the weekly Mando casting rumors, of course, and we're going to be celebrating the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back, so that's going to be fun to talk about, plus a little extra stuff here and there as canon normally goes. Joining us, as always, we have Carson.
What's going on, guys? Back reunited with my Star Wars wall. I feel complete, as I was saying during the pre-show, and I'm excited to talk about these Boba Fett / imposter, all these different things, rumors, and of course we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back, and we'll have plenty of memories, plenty of stuff to reminisce about. So let's get right into it.
Also joining us, we got Brandon.
Hey everyone, it's good to be back. Like Carson said, we have a little bit of Mandalorian news, not too much, but it is the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back. I don't have any Empire Strikes Back shirts, but I have a Yoda shirt, so may as well. But yeah, I'm ready to get into it, ready to celebrate the 40th anniversary. Let's get into it.
And also joining us, we got Evan.
Hey guys, I'm happy to be talking about Empire Strikes Back. I told myself a couple of hours ago I'm just going to watch certain scenes of the movie, but then I ended up just watching the whole entire movie because it's so good. So yeah, can we talk about that and the Boba Fett news, which might have me changing my tune about this whole Boba Fett inclusion in Mandalorian. So very excited to talk about it.
All right, so just to kick things off, we will be discussing that rumor mill of the casting of Timothy Olyphant, which was initially the first bit of news that came out of this. But then a day or two later, it was also reported that Timothy's character will be wearing Boba Fett's armor, which have led people to believe that not that he's playing Boba Fett, that maybe he's playing Cobb Vanth from the Aftermath novel.
Yeah, and Evan's going to have to add some context. I have not read the rest of the Aftermath series.
Yeah, I haven't read the Aftermath series either.
Jesus
Christ.
I will now.
The second I heard about him just wearing Boba Fett's armor, I instantly think of that Clone Wars episode, The Box, when bounty hunter's wearing Cad Bane's hat. He's like, "Nice hat. Where did you get it?" And he just shoots him.
And just takes his hat. Yeah, that was great. I did love that episode. It's funny because last week I should have mentioned Cobb Vanth. I have no idea why Cobb Vanth didn't even cross my mind during the podcast, because earlier last week somebody was talking to me like, hey, it could be Cobb Vanth or something. I totally tossed it aside because the main reason for not including Cobb Vanth, at least in speculation wise, was because he's such a minor character in a book series that nobody really, or not a lot of people really loved. I mean, they don't like the first one as much. Life, Debt, and Aftermath, Empire's End are great novels, but I didn't figure Filoni or Favreau would have knowledge of that book, or at least a Cobb Vanth character. So I'm very surprised about it. I didn't do my research. I kind of forgot who Cobb Vanth really was and his ideals, but I think the main gist of it was he was a guy from Tatooine who, after Return of the Jedi, comes across Boba Fett's armor from some Jawas, and then becomes kind of like a sheriff or a police officer in that old west of Tatooine. So and he kind of has those good morals, kind of takes out I think he teams up with Tusken Raiders or something along the lines of trying to restore order for somehow, some way in that area. And he comes across some enemies along the way, but yeah, pretty much it. You don't get too much about him. So I'm very curious to see if the show really delves into his character a lot, or if he's just like a Boba Fett and he's only in it for a scene or two. Very curious.
That was my first worry and kind of curiosity with this news, is that again, I'm just I'm trying to think how they're going to fit all these things in. And, if in fact that, obviously with Boba Fett's armor, it's going to be more linked to him as a character, at least initially. So I don't know how much it's going to be kind of a B plot, if it's okay, this has to or they're going to have a confrontation or something, or it's just kind of going to be kind of a rouse for the first few episodes where we kind of see the Boba Fett armor, but perhaps it's not actually Boba, and then we learn, and then we kind of something like that. I'm just very curious to see how they implement like the imposter element that I'm assuming it's going to kind of hold. And I would think that to tie it into everything, again, we've been talking about like these different types of Mandalorians and like how that could, and bounty hunters in general. And it sounds like if this Cobb Vanth character has like a different set of morals, again, it's challenging Din Djarin to a different way of life or a different perspective, because he's so used to the morals that he kind of got adopted into. So I'm interested, but I'm like cautiously optimistic, only because I don't want this season to be sensory overload of cameos and get away from the new characters that we got. And I think it'd be cool if they could repurpose Cobb Vanth or just expand on his story without drawing a lot of detail to like, oh, it's Cobb Vanth, to like the hardcore fans. I don't know how they would do that, but so yeah, I'm like 50-50 again on this news. It's just one of those scoops that I'm like confused on, but like also just kind of at this point with Mando season 2 news, I'm just like, it is what it is. We're gonna find out.
We'll see what's true.
I'm with you on that. It's like, don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of cameos coming, but at the same time, like I'm confused, but also I still have faith in Favreau and Filoni that they know what they're doing with them.
Totally. Nathan, let's get to the main part about this, the casting, because that kind of like really intrigued me.
Yeah, so I guess like apparently he does like a lot of Western type stuff. I think he like is on the show Justified, and he was just in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So it fits for sure. Dude's a great actor.
Yeah.
Who does he play in Once Upon a Time?
He's the co-star of the Western that DiCaprio's working on. In the red button-up black hat. He's the main star.
Oh shoot! Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Wait, at that table scene when they're like resetting the camera around the.
Dang, it's a deep cut. I don't really know. How many scenes does he have in that movie? Is it a lot? He's not in it that much, right?
Just a couple. Like initially, like when DiCaprio gets there, and then when they shoot that scene, and like later when he's leaving. I know he had like a deleted scene.
Interesting. But yeah, I like Timothy Olyphant a lot. He's a great character actor. I have not seen Justified. Like my parents have always watched Justified. They keep telling me to watch the freaking show. It's on Amazon Prime. I have no excuses not to watch it. Because I heard it's a great show. I might watch it this summer. But yeah, I like him as a character actor. I've seen him in other things. I can't really place it right now. But I just know he's in.
He voices somebody in Rango. He's also in Snowden, I guess, that 2016 movie.
I watched that.
With
some other things too. He's in Scream 2.
Never seen that movie.
I gotta rewatch Scream.
Looks like he's in one of the Die Hard sequels.
Or like
some other stuff.
Die Another Day.
That's James Bond.
No, Live Free or Die Hard. Live Free or Die Hard.
You're right. He's the villain in Live Free Die Hard. And you know what?
Yeah.
I like that movie. I actually like Live Free Die Hard. People give that movie crap, but he has some good quotes in that movie. I totally forgot he's the villain. Okay. But I'm very excited to see how he portrays Cobb Vanth. And like Carson was saying, it's kind of like a double-edged sword we got here, because I said last week, I don't want Boba Fett to take up too much of the storyline for Din Djarin and what's going on, kind of echoing what you guys are saying as well. But at the same time, this concept of Cobb Vanth coming into the mix kind of it intrigues me, because it makes the possible storyline, whatever we're thinking here, it makes it more unique. Oh, wow. I never saw Hitman. Early 2000s? How many Hitman movies are there?
2.
Jeez.
I think they did a reboot.
Yeah, well, they did that horrible reboot in like
reboot was trash.
2000, I don't know, 14, 15.
Yeah, a recent one. Yeah, I haven't seen either of them. I'm not a huge Hitman fan. Sorry, but good on him. Good on Sebastian. But
looked good in the part. So,
but yeah, so like this possible storyline, I don't see how Din could have any conflict, at least morally, with Cobb Vanth. At least what we've seen from Cobb and what we've seen from Din. They both seem like morally good people. I think Boba Fett's the one that might like cause a wrinkle in things. So do you guys think in season 1, episode 5, was that Cobb Vanth now? Or was that Boba Fett? What do you think now?
It would make more sense for Cobb Vanth to have a tie to the kind of the bounty hunters, or kind of like hunting down that scene and trying to get that under control feature, because what is like a sheriff character, like does he act like
I guess
as
he's like
the law, or like
a self-appointed sheriff?
Like a self-appointed sheriff, which seems kind of like, okay, this guy just wants control, but he's also just like, I think he's just a good guy. I could be completely wrong. I haven't read them in a while. But yeah, that's what I think so far.
that's interesting for Tatooine.
I think it could be really interesting if he is playing Cobb Vanth, if he like maybe it takes credit for the takedown
of Fennec.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Because Fennec was a bad person. He's a good guy, and he's like,
that's a good call. I didn't even think about that.
I totally forgot Fennec had a bounty on her.
Yeah, because other dude died, so can't say otherwise. Unless I mean, even Mando wasn't there, so
exactly. Yeah, good point. So interestingly enough, so like Cobb Vanth is a character that's primarily located on Tatooine. Does this mean that Din Djarin is going back to Tatooine? Because why would Cobb Vanth leave? Like, he's not really a bounty hunter; he's a sheriff for Tatooine, at least that area of Tatooine. So, for him to be included in this storyline, does Din Djarin have to go back to Tatooine?
Maybe part of the story will lead him to Tatooine.
He's with his gas again.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's interesting. I mean, well, I guess like in terms
we're
of
forgetting actually Tamora, if he comes, if he's actually playing Boba Fett, that's at least not having the armor at first, whatever they set up in terms of where the armor is, and if apparently that Timothy's been shooting scenes with the armor, we could see those two storylines kind of crash together on Tatooine, but I just don't know how that would get there.
I could see like I guess a couple routes they go. It all depends on like the course of action from the beginning of the season 2, because they left it pretty open ended of like where you could go. But just to like bring him to Tatooine, I feel like I mean by the end of by episode 7 they did like showcase like all the worlds he went to and the people he met along the way throughout the season. So maybe something happens and like he does kind of have a friend in the mechanic lady on Tatooine, maybe, or maybe he does run into Boba Fett or somebody that draws him back to Tatooine. I don't know.
Yeah, this is a sorry.
No, you can go.
This is a stretch, but what if when he encounters Ahsoka kind of tells him about the Force, and then he's like, okay. And then he looks at it. He looks up things. And he learns that Luke Skywalker was born on grew up on Tatooine. He's trying to go find Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker isn't there.
Yeah,
it's a stretch.
Yeah,
no.
I mean, we would have thought all these type of castings were a stretch to begin with.
That's a good
Anything
point.
It's like Google search, like, oh, let me just look up where this character, like, although like it is like an interesting possibility. Not even Luke Skywalker, but I think we're going to get more this season of like how these kind of outsiders perceive Force sensitive beings, or at least like the legacy of them, because we've had some pretty significant wars. And even though like that the Empire is still like showing like oppression on these planets, I'm wondering like how they like perceive, like, because even when we see what's the character that died in the first season,
Fennec Shand.
No, this is the way character. Oh, God, what's his name? Or not
Favreau's character.
No, God, what's the dude that he like meets and
Dognut.
Quill.
Yeah.
Oh, Quill.
Like they have that conversation after they deliver the egg or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, what happened back there?" And they were, I think we're gonna get more of that on a bigger scale of like what these outsiders and people that kind of reside in the Outer Rim kind of think about that stuff. So I hope we get that perspective.
Yeah, I hope so too. I don't want to get too into the Force perspective. Like, we kind of like talked about this last week. I hope when he meets Ahsoka, she doesn't even give him like her name. I hope it's more of a sage role kind of thing there. But yeah, I'll be very interested to see how they think of the Jedi, especially after Return of the Jedi, because we never really had that perspective. Because Luke is now like a war hero, is a mythological war hero. So I wonder if people reference him a lot in the outer regions. You never know.
I mean,
or maybe they don't even know. Like that's what fascinates me is like the perception of the Empire still being there and the war not being over in their eyes. It's like, because, you know, there's literally stormtroopers outside on some of these planets. So it's like, you know, the battle in Return of the Jedi, it's just probably could be for some of these people just another battle in the war.
Yeah. I mean, maybe through the progression of interacting with Ahsoka, maybe just like, because, you know, you want to get the safety for the child. Maybe there's some passing mention of, since such a great war hero Luke is, that he comes from Tatooine, or maybe Mando might assume he still has a home there and tries to visit. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like that. But like a lot of the location stuff from season 1 was just somebody would pop up in a hologram on Mando's ship, and then they'll say like, "Hey, meet me here," and then he just meets them there. So I can see like Boba Fett, or maybe a surprise Fennec Shand if she really is alive. She's like, "Hey, you have some unfinished business. Meet me here or else," kind of thing. He's like, F this. Now I have to go back to this freaking waterhole Tatooine.
He's gonna hold the lady in charge of the hangar bay hostage.
Yeah,
like the lady with the pit droids.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the aliens looking Ripley looking person. I think he might go to Tatooine reluctantly if he goes back to Tatooine. Like, I'm just thinking Cobb Vanth is the kind of guy who stays on Tatooine. He could easily be the kind of guy who just follows Mando wherever he's at. I have no idea. But it's very interesting. It does offer up a lot of different possibilities I wasn't even thinking of. Because last week I just thought like, okay, Boba Fett's going to come in here. He's mad at Mando because he's also another Mandalorian and blah, blah, blah. But now we have Cobb Vanth in the mix, and this creates like an interesting like 3-way duel here possibly going on. So very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sabine potentially, of all different kinds of like, and good God, I cannot remember names tonight.
Sabine.
Bo-Katan, yes.
Yes,
yeah, I think it would be interesting to like maybe like Cobb Vanth wearing the Mando armor and also Boba Fett could like spark up more of the discussion of the honor aspect of wearing Mando armor versus just living the free life.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this was getting passed around on Twitter the other day. It's just speculation, but there's a new casting. There was this casting that said, "Breaking, you have been casted for the for the Mandalorian season 2."
You guys have no idea what I'm going to do.
I can confirm. I was at Pinewood Studios. No,
I'm just post a picture of you holding Baby Yoda.
I'm the reason Giancarlo broke so many dark sabers.
That's brilliant.
But yeah, I mean, I also think it's really cool from the aspect of typically like the transfer of like non-main film canon to live action is like fairly rare. Like the biggest example I think we've seen was Saw Gerrera from Clone Wars to Rogue One. I think it's cool that like to go even deeper to like a book brought to life with Cobb Vanth. I think that's pretty great. And like the fact that he isn't like too large of a knowledgeable character lets you build more around it.
Yeah, I like that. Like if they are gonna pull, like I feel like so much of this, the post Return of the Jedi era before we actually get to the Force Awakens and the sequel trilogy era is so unexplored that like all those there's so much like open to interpretation stuff and stuff that we really don't have all the story for yet. So it's like it's cool that they're sparingly like digging into these if it is Cobb Vanth, they're kind of sparingly digging into stuff and kind of purposing it towards hopefully, you know, the major plot at stake versus just, you know, having him to show up. And that's where I keep going back with all these scoops is like I just am trying to stay optimistic because like, you know, we have zero context to any of these characters showing up. And so it's like, I think I'm going to have a lot more, I was talking about this on Twitter, I'll have a lot more expectations going into this season purely from like, because my brain will be every episode of like, oh, if this character is going to show up, I'm going to see certain things and like, try to connect the dots more this season, but in a way that keeps like the surprises like I don't know, like more unexpected because we even though we have like the names, I guess, if in fact all these characters do show up, it's like the actual plot of the show or the season 2, we don't really know the full extent yet. So I'm like just excited to see how it's put together.
Oh, absolutely. Father's is funny.
It can go.
He's a young Hux.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me, like the secrecy of this show. Like I was also like, season 1 was so secret. Even like all the marketing material, every Mando review episode, we'd be like, oh my God, we haven't seen like any footage from episodes 6, 7, 8, particularly. Like we didn't see anything.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy that we're already talking about this.
2 shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to bring this up. Like, is this a meaningful thing? Like, do you guys think like Favreau and Filoni want this to happen? It feels like every week we're getting new information.
I feel like, and it was also great that like even like shots with like Mando walking with the cradle, like they just took the cradle out and it was just him like walking the horizon shots, which is great. I feel like maybe because they are such big characters that in this day, and especially with how successful Mando has been, like there's probably inevitability of like leaks to happen. So maybe they're just like, all right, well, let's go ahead and like push these at the forefront so that way like our meaningful original stuff can still remain in our hands.
Yeah. Like I love how, I mean, other than that one leak, who should not be named, that one leak back when season 1 first got announced, there's somebody, I'm not going to name names. Yeah, but he kind of like snuck on set and got like a quick video of it. But now that more and more people are seeing where they're filming at, they're able to like, kind of stake out, see who's what. If you get what I mean.
I get what you mean, but this kind of leaks or rumors suggest like people just talking to sources, people just saying like, hey, what have you learned about this? And because everything seems so like, I mean, this we're all in quarantine now, so it just has to be people just talking to people and sources or whatever. It just seems weird.
In all fairness, I mean, kind of tying with the 40th anniversary, I think it would be like really funny to find out that just like the higher ups that like they pull their sources from have just been giving out false info, and like some of these don't even turn out to be true. Like,
I would love that.
Like with the how I Am Your Father, like they legit did put out to like the team that like
that Obi-Wan killed
your father, and it did actually leak for real.
That's awesome.
That's funny.
So and I don't know if people would be disappointed or not, but if like these castings turn out to be different, or if even they're like completely different characters, would be interesting. I know like a lot of these characters like make sense to fall into like the puzzle piece for this time era, but I don't know. It's interesting.
The thing that gets me with with all the castings, like, yeah, like they might be rumors. I think the Ahsoka one, with how much more news has come out other than just her being in Mandalorian, with how much more news has come out, I think that one's real. But like, okay. I can kind of believe Bo-Katan too because she did hold the Darksaber. I
mean, Kay Saga was also there on set.
She makes the most sense to be in this season. Like, I absolutely think she's in this season.
Yeah,
Sabine's up in the air for me though.
Well, it's the same with like Sabine and Ahsoka are like supposed to be together. But granted, I don't even know if like the Rebel sequel is even going to be after that time period of Mando or before.
It's so confusing.
Yeah.
Because you got that 5-year gap. I don't even know when exactly Rebels kicks up, since you just know it's after Battle of Endor. You don't know specifically when.
But speaking of Sabine, real quick, last week people were theorizing who could be playing Sabine. They were saying wrestler. I'm like, it's Tia Sakar. It's like there's no other option. It's Tia Sakar.
I would hope so.
And even if you're going off looks, you can just keep the helmet on. Like Sabine does that plenty of times.
I mean, and Tia's a good actress. She's been in live action stuff before. It's like she's not just a voice actress. She's not like
exactly. She's fantastic in Good Place.
Exactly. Yeah. So just want to say that real quick, but
Dave would definitely want that. I'm sure Dave would want that.
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh yeah. I mean, his like original characters. Why wouldn't he want them to make the jump?
Exactly. I'm pretty sure he would have wanted to cast Ashley Eckstein to play Ahsoka had been a younger version of Ahsoka too. You know what I mean? I feel like he would have ended up casting her.
That's interesting.
What do you guys think?
I mean, you could. I don't know. Ashley is a great actress. She can like change her voice per se, like change her voice, and then just give her makeup. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of live action, anyways. I could see why they chose Rosario Dawson because she's a great actress. And I guess I'm not even gonna say she looks the part because like anybody can look the part if you put makeup on them. But,
yeah, I mean, it all depends on like the look. All depends on like how much the budget's really putting into it. Like I know we've seen Ashley Eckstein at conventions as Ahsoka, but like that's not big Hollywood island magic. True. So I think that's where people's preconceived notions really come from. But we also do know that Dave says like is always open to like his characters jumping to the platform if like the story allows it. Like he's plenty happy to do so. Yeah. I did completely forget that there was spare Ahsoka news. There's always like the round of Ahsoka news. But there was also new reports putting that she may also appear in the Kenobi series in something.
What? I didn't hear this.
Yeah, that was going around too.
Jeez, you gotta link me some of these.
Apparently, like, and that's what like was also building toward like her, like things going around that like Lucasfilm has big plans for her in live action, especially in regards to her own series if they were to go down that route. I just would, in this instance, follow it the same thing with the reports for Hayden and Natalie, that like backstory, flashbacks. It would be really. I can't deny. I do want to see a live action Anakin Ahsoka Revenge of the Sith. I would like to see it. I mean, who wouldn't want to see that?
Me, I don't want to see any. Why? I don't get the appeal for live action Ahsoka. I just don't. I don't get it at all. It makes
Evan snapping.
She's an animated character. Let her stay in animation.
No, that's fair. That's fine. But if we're already doing it, like,
I guess. But even Kenobi, really? In Kenobi,
if it's a flashback, why not? I don't care.
I don't know.
As long as it functions.
I think if anything, his like struggle of thinking of the past in this series has to be so intrinsically linked to Anakin that I can't see like it being like all of a sudden he's like having a moment and Ahsoka pops up and
I agree with you here. I agree with you here because like I can easily see that happening because it's like after reading Lords of the Sith with how like they showed like the flashback, not a flashback, but they really tread on and Vader tapping into his memories. I can easily see it happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense, but not the Ahsoka part. Like I totally believe the Natalie rumor over this Ahsoka rumor.
Sure.
I mean, I just don't get the appeal, especially mainly this is going off of the Ahsoka live action series rumored, which has also been rumored. It's too much.
Well, I mean, I'll say I don't need the Ahsoka series live action. If I were to, I mean, I already feel like Clone Wars and Rebels are their own based Ahsoka series with how intrinsic her character has become in those plot lines. Like there is, I mean, yeah, Evan, you had like tweeted about it before, like the disinterest about Ahsoka and Maul getting their own Disney Plus shows because that was going around on Twitter. Just for that wasn't a report. That was just like
it was just a fan. Yeah.
But like I was completely on board with you that like they've already had like so much time devoted to them that it already feels like they've had their own shows and stuff.
I don't want to overtell Ahsoka's story. Like,
thank you. Yes,
it's great, and like I feel like this last season of Clone Wars just did so much for her character, and of course, I absolutely hope that we get this Rebel sequel, and I think that closing chapter of Ahsoka's kind of end goal or destiny after this whole Ezra thing is solved, presumably, that. What does that look like? I think anything else, if the live action series would be set in, I don't know where it would be set specifically. But is there even enough time post like?
It would have to be post Return of the Jedi, and there's 30 years there, so people are like, "Oh, there's plenty of time for Ahsoka to have her own adventurers in between Return and The Force Awakens.
I mean,
well, I don't know. Would they put it in between
That's
Sith and Rebels?
Say that again.
I mean, that's 15
between
years.
Sith and Rebels.
Yeah, that's 15 years.
I don't think so. Again, because we got Rebels and we got that book.
yeah.
So I don't think so. But I feel like we're getting to know Ahsoka in every single possible timeline. And I don't really like that.
Yeah.
Like
That's
we don't
fair.
know what Han, like until recently at least, they're now doing a comic book about Luke, Leia, and Han after Empire. But before that, we've had 40 years of not knowing what they did after Empire and in between Return of the Jedi. But now for Ahsoka, we're learning about Clone Wars, after Clone Wars, during Revenge of the Sith, after Revenge of the Sith, Rebels.
Yeah.
And now it's before the Rebels finale, before that final scene of Rebels, I was satisfied with Ahsoka. I was done because she came back and I was good. But now it's now I really want to see that Rebel sequel. That's going to be it for me in terms of Ahsoka.
Yeah.
But now doing this
final straw of closing out the character where I feel like she can truly fulfill her purpose and kind of fully heal herself for all the tragedy that honestly has happened in her life. I feel like not only the passage of time, but whatever she finds in this time period is gonna help her kind of get through everything. And I'm curious to see what that is. And I feel like that's the last thing I want to see of Ahsoka. I feel like I don't want to learn so much about Ahsoka that it's it becomes at this moment, in this moment, I don't want to have so many specific moments that I know about Ahsoka. I'd rather just have the most important and kind of critical turning points in her life. And I think we've gotten those so far. With Rebels and with Clone Wars, obviously, and hopefully the Rebels sequel. And I feel like that can be kind of the full trilogy, if you want to say, of Ahsoka's arc.
Yeah, that's completely fair.
Real quick, I think the one thing people really want, not me, but I've seen a lot of fans want for Ahsoka next is that reunion, not even reunion, that meeting with Luke Skywalker. I think people really want to see that. So I see
a lot of tweets about that too.
I'm really nervous they might do that.
I'd like to see that, but only in animation.
Yes,
I agreed. That's the only way I would like it, and it's the only one that makes sense. Because before or after they rescue Ezra, they can meet Luke, and they can have an animated Luke Skywalker voiced by Mark Hamill.
Yeah, they're not gonna do the Sebastian Stan fan.
Exactly right. That's what I'm worried about. They're like, oh, just cast Sebastian and make a Luke Skywalker series too.
He's already on Winter Soldier. It's fine.
Yeah,
and that part of that intersection, especially if it kind of I don't know when exactly it would coincide with Luke. It'd be so interesting because would he already be teaching Ben at that point? It's
ooh,
there's some potential there.
I would honestly love if they did do animation, because not only is Mark Hamill had his own current voice acting, but I feel like if you said it maybe 10 years after Jedi, I feel like because Mark Hamill has definitely had a shift in his voice in the many years. I feel like that would fit a lot better in that time frame.
If I instantly think of from Last Jedi when he's yelling Ben no.
Yes,
that kind of voice. I can hear it. I can hear it in animated form.
Good call. Yeah.
And even seeing him in the Rise of Kylo Ren comics, just seeing the prime era of him teaching on the green field outside the temple, just that's present Mark, but very cleaned up and nice, and everything's fine.
Cleaned up, clean shaven.
And also, I want to learn more about I read Bloodline, and good God, just learning the kind of intermittent hiding of the First Order, the Empire that never really died, that kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of good stuff that could be done, maybe in animation in that same era. And I think there's a lot of broad scope that an animated show, 10 years past whatever, into that, because it's 30 years between so probably like halfway through that era where it would be set, and then it would cover a few years of like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential there, but if we ever see Ahsoka cross paths with Luke, I would want it to happen in animation during kind of that middle point of that 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But just to wrap up, in the regard to like the Kenobi appearance, I feel like the only way they would do that is like not just like a small scene, but I feel like it has to be like super. Like it's weird because like if they do go the route of like having Rosario Dawson in the role, that like you see like in the time frame of Ahsoka, Clone Wars, and Rebels, like there's a big age gap in that regard. So you really couldn't have her in that era. So unless it's a lot, just to like have to like plan this out, I guess. But in order for them to do that, they would have to have a different younger actress for Ahsoka, and I feel like they would only do that solely if they really are trying to make these plans to have the live action audience understand who Ahsoka is.
And I'd be okay if we just saw Ahsoka, we just saw the back of her head or something.
Yeah, so, I mean, she doesn't even need lines or anything. I think they'd be fine with that too if they're really
that would be okay.
Make a visual connection. But in regards to it all ultimately tying into a live action show, like yeah, of course I'll watch it, but I don't need it, and I would also prefer just like the live action the stuff to just be in animation because you have way more free range of storytelling that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that about wraps that up then. So real quick, let's also discuss the new episode of the Disney Gallery from The Mandalorian.
I was about to say, speaking of casting.
Oh yeah, the cast itself, the official ones that made history. There's a lot of great stories from the main three. Like start off with just like Pedro, who is just having the time of his life, and also getting mega injured, but also looking way worse with his bloody makeup.
I did not know there were 3 different people playing the Mandalorian. I thought it was just Pedro and a stunt double.
Me too. Like, I really I put that down in my notes because I was very shocked by that. That was very interesting. Like,
it's great because like you're able to divvy it up. You have one person just playing the part, trying to give the facial expression. You have another person who knows how to use guns and use weapons, so they're skilled in that, made them look badass. And then you have the other person who actually gets into the fights and does the stunts, which I think it's great.
Looking back, it was pretty seamless. Like if you would have said it was one stunt double and Pedro and the dialogue heavy scenes, I'm like, okay, totally. But 3 people, I'm just I have to commend the whole team. Like I even said, like I'm so glad that like Pedro gave so much credit to these people because they truly do deserve it. It's a hard job to be a stunt performer, and especially in Star Wars and everything like blowing up. I imagine the scene where like they're pinned down, or Mando's pinned down on that little speeder, and everyone's shooting at him, and he's just going crazy. But I loved hearing Pedro's perspective, and there was a lot of voiceover work this season, getting to see all those scenes, like having the scene playing, and then Favreau and Filoni just sitting back.
Yeah, he's like,
he's holding the pillow, and he's
holding
like,
the pillow.
I could bring you in hot, or I could bring you in cold.
Oh, that's great. I love seeing those different audio record. That's some of my favorite stuff whenever they do ADR. It's always fun seeing that aspect. And like, I don't know if those scenes they showed were actually the spoken dialogue that they used, or if they just like redubbed, but it lined up. It synced so perfectly that I couldn't tell.
That's what I'm going to ask, Nathan. Like, I'm not really familiar with all this filmmaking aspect part of it, but did they do ADR for every single line that Pedro spoke? Like, when they were on set, did they have Pedro speak and then just do ADR afterwards?
I would imagine what they'd have, because it's not going to come through as clear through the mask. So
and you do the lines on purely for the other actors in the scenes to get a natural feel.
That's what
I mean, they also
but then the ADR everything.
Plus, from
they also
Carl
showcased
Weathers
in the doc that Favreau and Pedro, like while doing the stuff, they even like altered some lines in it that they felt flowed better.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
That's
you're right. Interesting.
it's
So
interesting. Yeah.
what they're doing, I would have thought like I wouldn't have expected like him to actually say lines on set. I mean, he had like whispered them, but from what Carl Weathers said, from like him talking to a masked character the whole time, he's trying to act off of what he's been given. He's got to be like in full character to talk to him for Carl Weathers to be able to like give a full acting response back. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Totally. Yeah. It reminded me of like how in The Last Jedi, how Adam had to be there with Daisy Ridley when they were doing the
Amazing.
Force vision scenes, whatever, Force back scenes. So that was really cool. I really liked this whole part of the documentary where they were discussing how to get that emotional complexity from the Mandalorian, from a guy you can't really see. He's all masked. And that was interesting because like that was the main question I had going into the show. Like, how am I going to be emotionally gripped and captivated by some guy I can't see? Like, I'm not a huge fan of Boba Fett, so how is this guy really gonna connect with me? And it really worked throughout the entire show. Like right from the beginning, I immediately got who the Mando was, like from episode 1 through 6. He had a great arc.
And I loved how they pointed out how like when they were directing him, they wanted to make a lot of points where whenever he was just like doing his thing as a Mandalorian, that he is primarily still and stoic, so that like every little movement has meaning and matters.
Has meaning.
It
Deborah
jumps out.
Chow's line was fantastic about I think cuts to some clips of I can't remember what scene it was, but just stuff like him. I think it was the same one I was just talking about, him laying down on the speeder or whatever, hiding and just kind of being still, and then it cuts to one of those shots of him holding the top of the mechanism that Baby Yoda was messing with, and kind of just being still and like collecting those thoughts and making choices. It's just interesting that how they like visually represented it. That was a cool directing thing, because it's like your actor is literally completely masked, and it's like as a director you had to like bring out all these different things, and I love how they were deliberately thinking about that each and every episode.
Exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's fantastic. Yeah, Pedro did incredible stuff. I really liked the stuff with Gina Carano. She's so adorable in this doc. Just like she's having so much fun. I like that they kind of molded the character around how she is initially. So she also like found like meaning in acting through this character, which I thought was really cool. I completely forgot that she was a survivor of Alderaan.
Oh yeah. You know the craziest part was like they showed the concept art for Cara Dune. It's just like a perfect casting for her.
Oh yeah, they initially were just like, well, yeah, this one. Like after like the first
that's the power of Star Wars. You're like, this actress, yeah, we're gonna sign her. Okay, concept art, get it going. Let's go.
I think,
and of course, she wanted to do it, but like,
I think it was Pedro that said that when like he came in, they were like looking at the concept, and it was like, oh, already like that was great stuff.
I loved seeing Favreau's like fanboyism for Gina Carano, like going through all of her roles.
Oh yeah, and even also her physicality career of the UFC. That was great, and even like going around to the actual directors of the episodes, discussing the different casts, how they were working. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I love that whole perspective of the directors getting a chance to talk about like how they worked with Gina and how they worked with Pedro and how they like directing Carl Weathers. That was really cool.
I love the one point working on one of the episodes where like Gina actually just dragged like a full like 180-pound dude like on her own. And there was like, oh shit. And she did like multiple takes every time. Like that was great. And then also she was like super gushing over how well Carl's Weathers is and working with him, and you know he was all heartfelt thank you, but then
that was super sweet. I was watching that, I was like, oh my gosh, that was really a beautiful statement.
Yeah, this whole doc series is just so good. There's so much magic in each episode.
Do you think this is kind of a sidebar, you think Carl Weathers' character makes it through season 2?
Don't
Great
do this.
question.
Don't do this.
I hope so.
I hope
I
so
think
too.
so. I think so. I think he will.
I got to see how the rest of the story is shaping up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that
I think
crazy?
I
It's like we don't have
more-
anything to go off of.
I mean, he just kind of went the redemption angle for his actions. I feel like I'd be more worried if he gets even more like centric scene instead of like popping up like a couple episodes like toward the beginning or end stuff. If he starts being like main part of like episodes like back to back to back, I feel like that's when you
Yeah,
start
good
getting
point.
That's
like
gonna be worried.
that feeling of like, ooh. But also, you have to remember, guess who's marching back into town right now?
Mr. Gideon.
Mr. Gideon is marching right back out of town. It's not going to be a pretty welcome.
He's pissed.
they got to get out, dude.
Yeah, remember I
Exactly.
mentioned that last week. I was like, they could be captured. Like, him and Gina Carano's character Kara could be captured in episode 1 for all we know.
Yep.
Captured over
Scary.
Tatooine. There we go.
That'd be crazy.
How we-
Like,
You get
We're
a
picking in the
Tatooine.
tattoo.
You get a
yikes.
They just like throw a dart and it's like, what's the desert planet we're going?
You know, Carl Weathers was the best choice for Grief Carter because, like, originally he was supposed to be just like an alien character, but Carl Weathers, I love, and then the doc, like Carl Weathers talks about, he's like, I put some thought into it, like, people are gonna want to watch because like my name is kind of attached to it. Give me a regular character, no makeup or anything. Let me.
I think that was initially brought up by John himself. I think they, were just
Yeah.
like, they tested it and they were just like, we can't cover this, man. Look at him.
That's Carl
The
Weathers.
best part of this episode is them laugh around the round table and then hearing Dave Filoni talk about his like first live action test shoot where the alien had like 4 different eyes or something, and he's like, all right, look this way, and Dave's like, oh, I'm trying to impress John, and John's over there just like, do your thing, man. And he's like, it's not working, and
This is a nightmare.
It's so funny.
That was so good. I love Dave's stories. He's the best storyteller.
Yeah,
Oh, every time, so good. Like again, petition Dave Filoni podcasts need it.
we need it.
Yeah.
He's already so quiet on social media. Just come on. A weekly sit down in your lunch break or something.
Going off of Brandon said, like, they were going to have Carl Weathers die in episode 3, which was really shocking.
Oh yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, how was he going to? Granted, it was a different character. Like we were talking about, it was an alien character that was going to die in episode 3, but I can't imagine him dying in episode. I guess during that one scene where he actually like shoots, he shoots him and he falls down. And he's not dead, obviously, but that could have been the scene where he actually did die. That would have been
Exactly.
surprising.
Well, yeah, I guess, but also, I mean, yeah, at that time, it'd make plenty sense if he just was only because at that point, if he dies, he's only staying as the greedy dude that he is, and it's not until later down the line when he gets healed by the child that he actually has that change of heart, and you get that further development.
I feel like he's kind of be the Poe Dameron of the Mando show as a whole.
Yeah,
I knew he was
that or the Jesse Pinkman of because Jesse Pinkman was supposed to die in season
Yeah.
1.
That's still wild to me.
Crazy. That's crazy.
good.
It's so weird, like imagining like all the like whether it is Breaking Bad or Force Awakens, like had that original character that has such longevity now died early on, how different the series might have turned out.
100%. 100%. Like, because like if you killed off Poe, you would have to have like some kind of way to back up the story by having Finn take leadership, you know?
Yeah.
Right. But like it
I
took
feel
all
like-
of Last Jedi just to get Finn to believe in choosing a side, you know?
Exactly.
And I think as soon as like we get like plenty seasons down the line in the show, looking back on his character, we're gonna be like, wow, man, like things would be so much different without him.
Yeah. I'm still depressed they killed Quill, but
Yeah.
it made sense to the story.
Power was like, you had to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always a sacrifice. Yeah.
Like I know everyone's gonna hate me. That was funny because like I think like didn't John like go on about just like the hopefulness of survival and stuff, and it's like and then he killed him.
And then he killed him.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, yeah, good point.
I'm still kind of pissed they killed, like they were able to kill Quill like so quickly at the end of the second to last episode, and then those same stormtroopers couldn't hit their target shooting at a rock.
I know.
I want to go back and watch that scene because it's so intense. He's like on the what's the animal called? the blurg or whatever.
Little blurg.
Yeah.
And it's intercut with the speeder bikes and like the blurg's little legs.
Oh,
Oh
And it's too
no.
funny.
poor guy.
Yeah.
But that's also so great that in those scenes though that you do have the backup elements of like, well, maybe IG could come out, and you presume there's some different routes that things might take, and you hope for the best.
But nope.
Yeah.
And we know what happened.
Too funny.
But yeah, it was great stuff all around. Great stuff. The next episode's gonna drop like
Do we
I think
know
like
what
an
Momentarily.
An hour.
Yeah, so like that's gonna be great to see as well.
I'll watch it. next
ILM
Thursday,
episode,
like always.
apparently.
Oh,
Ooh.
ILM. Sweet.
Yeah, I saw
Please.
someone who's seen an early tweet about it. It's said Star Wars visual effects junkies are going to absolutely adore this episode. I need more.
Give me
something.
all the John Knoll.
Episode 7 of episode 7 of the series is titled Score.
Let's
Oh,
go.
sweet. I love
Especially
that.
after that Tenet trailer, that
Oh,
bumping score. by,
Ludwig Göransson, we need it.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm glad we do these Thursdays so we can just wait a week. But
Gives us time to really watch the episode,
Yeah, I know. I actually always watch it like hours before we start the podcast anyway. So.
yeah, you just watch it right before. Yeah, but no, it's great stuff. But I think that would about wrap up main topics. We are now. I mean, we already got like 50 minutes of show, so we're doing good.
It's crazy.
We're gonna touch on today, or yesterday by this time.
40th anniversary.
It is the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back. Wonderful. A few of us have pre-watched it before, but also you don't need to.
You watched it.
Yes,
Hey.
Carson.
Oh my
Beautiful.
gosh.
Wait for it. I gotta get it to play the song.
It's dying.
But
on you.
copyright.
The batteries are dying anyways.
Technical
Copyright
difficulties.
person.
Okay.
That's great.
The best part, the best part about this being the 40th anniversary is all the Funko Pops and merch coming out. Because I would have never thought they would have made a Carbonite,
That's
Han
incredible.
Carbonite Funko. And as soon as I saw it, I think actually Trevor just popped in the stream, but I think Trevor's the one who like shared the photo or something in the chat. I'm like, I need it, and I went and bought it.
It's definitely. one of
For
those.
some reason, I thought that existed. Oh my god, the Falcon's talking to me.
L3, is that
Started,
you?
you can't stop.
L3, is that you?
It's one of those where it's like you've had the batteries in it for 10 years and they still have not died, and you're just wondering how they have not like corrupted or corroded. But anyways, yeah, like I thought that Funko already existed, but like but maybe not with the. I felt like silver or Carbonite Han existed, but not with like the big square part.
The frame.
Oh yeah.
Maybe he did it, or maybe he didn't. I don't know. But it's cool that they have all this stuff. And I wish we would. This would have been such a huge deal at Celebration. Like imagine like going to the Funko booth
Oh, man.
and all the 40th anniversary stuff, and especially the panel. I'm sure there would have been some exclusive poster or
Harrison Ford would have come out.
yeah, he would have crashed his plane into the Anaheim. And
Oh my
Man,
god.
I'm
Don't
gonna
say that
really
on
miss,
stream. Do not say that on
Too
stream.
soon. Too soon.
I'm gonna really miss winning lotteries to get exclusive items. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
hey, we got that Lego one. That's all that matters.
Oh yeah.
I still miss
Thank you
overnighting.
for that.
I still miss
I don't care that I
overnighting.
built it. I don't care.
Do you, Brandon? Do you really?
Bro, dude. No, literally, Nathan, there was this one time we tried going to sleep for like an hour and it did not happen.
Oh yeah, that was 2017.
2017
yeah.
for this
Yeah,
overnight
we were
line.
just on straight concrete. I was like,
Mhm.
It was awful. I
But,
could only sleep
yeah.
for like 30 minutes at a time.
by the end of day when I returned home, I was up for like a straight 30 hours, if not more.
Oh, dude, same. I
Dang.
literally ended up like after that panel, we walked around for like an hour. Nathan and I didn't even say goodbye. He was like,
you abandoned me.
he was like, you were like, I'm gonna.
You're my brother.
You were like, I'm gonna go find my dad. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go check to see if they need wristbands for this Schmodown panel.
Yeah, you
And
went
then
out for a
I went to
thing,
that
and
too.
then caller messaged me later, like, we're gonna peace out. Like, all
yeah,
right.
we were just like completely dead tired. Like I remember we were just like sitting like right outside the Star Wars show stage, and we were just like, we're done, man. We're done. We're tired. We're
Yeah.
hungry. Just go back to the hotel, get some sleep.
Weak,
And then I
like
texted.
your parents.
And then I texted you. I'm like, yeah, we peaced out. And you're like, oh, okay, cool, man. See you later.
See you another
I'll
year.
go
Yeah, see you.
pass
See you
out in my car till I hit a steakhouse. And
Yeah, that was totally me. And after that first overnight, like I did something, and then I went back to my hotel and I slept for like 12 hours, and it was like nighttime. I'm like, oh crap! Now we have to do the overnight for the Last Jedi premiere. So I ran back.
Did you overnight for the 40th anniversary panel? Is that what?
Oh no, I didn't. I didn't overnight for the 40th.
Last Jedi.
Last Jedi. I meant Last
Okay,
Jedi. Then I had to come back for. I think it was like Schmodown or Jedi Council. It was something.
Oh, like it was like later in the day.
It was later in
Yeah,
the
it
day. I
would've
slept
been.
for way too long. Yeah.
I still can't get over the fact that
nowadays, I feel like had we attended this 40th anniversary, like I feel like it's such a 50-50 now whether or not it's going to turn out like 40th Empire
or 20th
20th
Phantom Menace.
Menace.
See, I think
Neither are
20th Phantom,
bad, but obviously one's way more extravagant.
20th Phantom Menace kind of got screwed over because of the snow.
What do you
No,
mean?
but like the content of the panel though, like
Yeah, well,
I think this is gonna be a way more hyped if it ever
I mean, it's
happens.
Empire.
Like
Well, I mean, the 20th anniversary panel for Phantom Menace, I feel like because like there were rumors going around that George Lucas was supposed to go there, but because of the snow, his flight got canceled.
The 20th.
Oh,
The 20th anniversary for Phantom Menace, he was supposed to be at the panel.
Well, he
but-
at least got a video message. That was
Yeah, he got a video message out, which was good, and Sam Jackson did too, I think.
yeah. He was like,
But-
I'm still alive.
But
I think that was the 40th. Like they were just celebrating all of Star Wars at that point.
I think for the 40th anniversary, since it's in California at this current time, we'll get Harrison Ford, we'll get Mark Hamill, George Lucas, I hope. Maybe Rick McCallum? I don't know.
Rick McCallum. Yeah.
Do you think 40th was just like as extravagant because it was
The 40th anniversary of just
Because-
Star Wars in general?
yeah, New Hope was like so kicked off, and also we like had very recently lost Carrie as well, so like big tributes were wanted,
mhm.
stuff like that.
I mean, they had Hayden out there. They had
No, that's also falls into like all of Star Wars.
Yeah, well, Star Wars. I did not like if I knew Harrison Ford and George Lucas and John Williams would have been there. I would have I would have overnighted to it, and I'm still beating myself up that I didn't go. But
Never skip a panel unless it's publishing.
I, but yeah, I
Okay.
hope to rectify this mistake because I also miss George Lucas and Harrison Ford on the Star Wars show stage. But I really hope to rectify this mistake by being able to go to this 40th anniversary panel to hopefully George Lucas and Harrison Ford show up because like, what are all the stars that can really show up? But like, it's like hell, like even the 20th Phantom Menace, you had Ian McDiarmid, Ahmed Best, Ray Park, and Anthony Daniels. Who do you have for this one? You have Anthony Daniels.
I would
Yeah.
try to for 40th
Billy D.
Empire. I would say Billy D and Mark.
Yeah, Billy D, Mark, Anthony Daniels. I mean, you'd have to have one more person. Harrison Ford, maybe?
You have to get Harrison. Empire is his
Yeah,
movie.
you have to get
Yeah.
here.
He has the most iconic line after Vader in that film.
Yeah, I know.
Alright,
Double meaning. Let's go.
you can leave, Brandon. You can leave.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
it's interesting.
I think just by nature of the Empire Strikes Back, it's going to feel bigger than the 20th anniversary of Phantom Menace. I feel like Phantom Menace was kind of like more of an appreciation of like how much the technology grew and like
Mhm.
how much the prequel era impacted Star Wars. Where I
Yeah.
feel like this is much more like celebratory in the sense that it's like, hey, remember that bomb ass Star Wars movie that came out in 1980? Like it's gonna be like, I don't know.
But will we get John Williams
Oh, I hope so.
to play Han and Leia's
The
theme?
Han and Leia theme, the best theme in Star Wars. Yeah.
The Carbonite theme, maybe?
The carbon.
Yeah, stuff like that. Do you
Or
think?
Lando's Palace? How, like, because we got the Imperial March at the 40th anniversary panel. back in 2017. It'd be cool to have the Imperial March again. But imagine like a live performance of like Lando's Palace or the Carbonite or the Battle of Hoth. Like there's like an excerpt from the Battle of Hoth because it's like 15 minutes long.
Do you think John would show up after his saga exit with Tross?
Yeah, because I mean,
I know like he still would. I know he still like does his yearly Hollywood Bowl, but
which is a week after Celebration in Anaheim.
Well, that would take away even less from me in that case because I feel like he'd only because isn't he like 87 right now?
Yeah.
I feel like it might be a lot, especially if it's like 2 weeks apart.
I mean, you say that, but George Miller over here is like about to be 90 and he's filming into multiple movies.
Well, that's one could sit down, I guess. So John Williams has to stand forever and move his
director of Happy Feet 2.
Who's the one that does Yoda? What's his name? Frank Oz.
He doesn't do conventions.
He doesn't. Okay.
Because
until now,
I wish
money exists. Don't worry.
Yeah, if Wedge could come back, Frank Oz can come back.
Can you imagine getting a photo of Frank Oz? That'd be amazing.
Dude, I would die.
No, what would be incredible is if like he's just like chilling on stage and like Warwick's hosting or something, and you're just kind of like chilling at like your setup, and he just like surprises people with a puppet.
That would be so weird.
That'd be amazing.
He's just like in the first row, just like holding Yoda above the stage.
Yeah, I mean, they probably just pulled the TLJ puppet they got because they molded after Empire. Like, sure, yeah.
I would say they'd get Jeremy Bulloch, but he also retired from conventions.
That's right. Well, I mean, I don't know. It sucks because of this panel's celebration's probably
it's not happening, but
not happening.
I mean, but even if
100%, come on, guys.
If they postpone, I think it's still going to happen with how much 40th anniversary merch they've been selling pre-sales for. Because like when I first got my tickets, they also sold
all those shirts. I remember
all the shirts and the hats, and I got a shirt and a hat with it and an annual lanyard. So I mean, I think it'll still happen as a panel.
Yeah, I'm still 60% sure it's happening. I'm not with you guys.
Man, what does social distancing convention even look like?
It does.
What?
Yeah, it does. With like a sea of people, that's way too difficult.
I think about my first celebration experience of sprinting through a crowd of people under like the chaos of like running to a stage, and I'm like, oh, Del Rey booth. Oh my god! Like, I'm like, how is that even possible to be socially distant?
Meanwhile, Nathan, Evan, and I are
that makes
already
the episode 9. That makes the panel video I got on here even more great to look at, Carson. Just knowing that like you're just like so fresh in the heart of Star Wars, and then you're just like you've been staring at a panel for an hour, and then you're totally makes even more sense that you're just jumping up and down in joy.
Or waving at the camera while cam actors talking. You're like,
about to go buy a $26 burger and fries.
Oh god! Don't even remind me of those prices.
Oh, Jesus!
You want a beer? Oh, it's not open yet.
It's not 11:30 yet.
Damn it!
I miss Randy.
I miss the convention. I miss Wintrust.
But yeah, Empire Strikes Back,
and then we can go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've been talking about Celebration, but like Empire itself, I did want to touch on our favorite scenes from the film.
All of it.
No, yes, but your favorite of favorites.
It's hard. Just for a little backstory, like Empire used to be my favorite movie of all time. Like it probably still is. Like whenever somebody asks me what my favorite movie of all time is, I usually say Empire. But if I'm not talking about Star Wars, then I would say like 7. But yeah, Empire is a perfect movie. I think I'll go as one of my underrated favorite moments that nobody really talks about that much. It's when Battle of Hoth is about to get started, and Luke he says goodbye to Han.
Oh yeah, they don't even say anything. They just look at each other and nod.
Exactly. I love that. Luke's like he's trying to say something, trying to say thank you maybe for saving him earlier in the movie. But then Han's like, just be careful out there, Luke. And you get the ominous like feel like they're not gonna see each other until Return of the Jedi after this. So it's so dark, but it's so really sweet too. I just really love that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I ship it. Okay.
Get out.
No, that
You're
would
outta
happen
here.
today. I guarantee you. But
That which I totally would, yeah.
Yeah.
But I just love that moment. They're best friends, and especially like juxtaposing that from after A New Hope, where we see like Han like this renegade person with a heart of gold at the very end of the movie, and just instantly in the first 10 minutes, you realize how close Luke and Han have already become.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And she was working on the ship.
Oh yeah.
Turn it off! It's all kind of hell. It's all on fire.
All the Falcon breaking scenes is just it adds so much to it, but like not only with comedy but tension as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that aspect of it. I think a lot of directors to put that in their future movies, because I always remember Ghost Protocol, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, where everything goes wrong for Tom Cruise and his team, or Ethan Hunt and his team, and it's just like Empire, where everything that can possibly go wrong goes wrong.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Changed movie making in a way. In that sense, it everyone calls it the Empire Strikes Back effect of like, all right, everyone's getting split up, everyone's going the most challenging thing they can do, and a lot of middle chapters of trilogies, and of course, like just the middle section of movies do this, where they're just like everyone's at their lowest point. I think Empire does it so well. It just has like the perfect formula in any other, and that's why it's so many people's favorite movie of all time, and still is. It's like 3 years later.
I love how much of an impact it's had. Just like you said, like the middle series, everybody calls it the Empire Strikes Back effect. Even Infinity War, everyone's like, "This is Marvel's Empire Strikes Back."
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, it was.
Yep.
That's so awesome.
Can we talk about the 40-year-old best 40-year-old spoiler alert? I am your father.
Wow.
The most common misquote.
Misquoted, yes.
Because everybody says Luke instead of no. Yeah, so like from my point of view, it's interesting. Because I kind of view like and this is just for me, this is an instance of like watching. I have the same effect of watching Empire as I do with watching Winter Soldier, in the fact that like I so rarely watch them, so every time I do go back to them, they just blow me away every single time. It's insane how much good is in a film that like you have like really no issue with whatsoever, especially like, and if you start developing an issue, it's instantly solved or something like that. It's crazy, and I think that actually like helps it a lot, because like so many of these other films, like growing up, like I always like replayed Return of the Jedi, Revenge of the Sith, bunch of the sequel trilogy now, but every time it's Empire, like I watch it and like it's like the first time again a lot of times, because you just remember stuff that you don't see before. Like I was watching a lot of the Falcon action, and just like seeing the shot of it like connected to the Star Destroyer. It's such a beautiful shot, not just with the miniature work, which is amazing, but just like the camera moves in a way in so many scenes that just like I forget it even does that. Like a lot of times I'll think back on some of these films and I'll just think like you got like the main static shots, but like there's like points where like you're on Dagobah and you're like kind of like flowing through a tree and stuff like that, and it just made me think of like, and it felt like super refreshing, like when Force Awakens was coming around, like that turnaround shot on the Rebel base. And everybody was just like, "Oh, that looks so beautiful" and stuff. It really feels like there's like a breath of fresh air. But then you go back to Empire, and it's got like plenty of that stuff too. That's just so great.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. Well, one. Does anyone else have their theatrical cut?
Wow. No,
I got a CBS Fox videotape of A New Hope. I don't have.
Wow.
But also, like
I'm 21. I don't know. Like, it's not like this is a deep collector thing. I grew up. I would pop in the New Hope thing. I had this like box TV, and I was lucky enough because it also had a VHS player installed.
I had the same thing. It's the best.
Oh yeah, it was so great. Like I watched so many videos.
But like Nathan was saying about like missing details, just not like keep discovering new details. I kind of pieced together a detail that I've never noticed before. It's when Luke is like, "What's in the cave?" and Yoda's like, "Only what you take with you." And at this point, Luke, Luke has kind of hatred for Vader because he killed his mentor, and he believes that he killed his father. He takes his hatred for Vader into the cave, and that's why Vader appears.
Oh yeah,
Brandon, that is
whole
crazy
thing
that
of,
you
like,
mentioned that. Yeah.
I
That
love.
is why we love how that gets carried throughout the saga. Rey's biggest hatred is the lack of knowledge she has of herself and where she comes from. She hates that she can't place where she comes from. And that's why the mirror scene is so good when she goes down there, is because she desperately wants answers. And it's a little different than where Luke is at, but it's a similar moment in the sense that Luke is having hatred for Vader and Rey is having hatred of her identity almost. And so it's like, I love how Empire kind of, it kind of became one of the most reflective Star Wars movies, as it challenged everything. And like, I can't even imagine like seeing it back in the day and seeing seeing it after A New Hope and how much like Star Wars has changed from that moment.
Yeah, I actually had that mindset while rewatching tonight. Just like thinking like how people must have felt like running through specifically watching the carbonite scene. Because it lets you sit for a moment after he gets frozen, because they do set up like, will he even survive the process? You don't know. And like when he is frozen, there is a solid minute of everybody being very somber and uncertain before Lando even confirms that he's alive.
Because they just toss him down.
People just sitting around watching are just like, did he die? Like
even 3PO's, he's like, oh, they put him into carbon freeze.
Yeah, like they actually did it. Yeah,
he'll be secure if he survived. Yeah, if he survives that. And then he's like, yeah, he's alive.
It's funnier. It's funny in that aspect when Vader immediately goes, well, Calrissian.
But it's really funny that you mentioned that only what they can take with you moment, Brandon, with the whole Dagobah scene, because I wrote that down in my notes because it's very like impactful. Like, this is such a deep line for this whole movie, where Luke comes in there with fear and aggression, and that's what he really ends up seeing. It's like fear for Darth Vader, anger for Darth Vader, and what he may become in the future. And it's so deep. Like, I remember when I was a little kid, I had no idea what that scene meant. Like,
even me, I just now picked up on it tonight.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
That's crazy. Like, such a deep. I've seen this movie hundreds of thousands of times, and whenever I see that scene, I'm like, what does this mean again? Like, it always has me thinking about something different whenever I watch it every time.
That whole strip, the whole Dagobah sequence, like probably the most valuable thing to me as a Star Wars fan, at least probably for a good chunk of my life. That's been like the core of what Star Wars is to me. Is there's just so many lessons and so many things that you can learn from that scene. It's just so Star Wars. There's no other way I can put it. It's like, I feel like A New Hope, it set up the universe, but I feel like Empire set up kind of the core and the morals and all these different things that we kind of learn and challenge every day in different kind of Star Wars mediums. It's just there's so much in Empire that
it's the best.
Like Brandon said, it's like it's mesmerizing yet dense at the same time.
It's so fascinating. Like, I feel like it's like, it really is in a lot of ways the perfect Star Wars film of all ages. Because like, if I just like think back of like how I would watch Empire and like the whole Dagobah stuff, I'm just like, oh, this cool little puppet on his back is lifting a ship. That's cool. But like, the older you get, the more deep in philosophy that when you actually start listening. Like, my favorite Yoda quote of all time is when he's talking about the Force, how it's in everything, and the tree, the rock, luminous beings, everything is so great. If I were to think of a favorite scene, it kind of like goes in a bookend format, like when Yoda first reveals himself in his home, and he's kind of arguing with Obi-Wan back and forth, and Luke's arrogance. I feel like, which is great in the full scale of the saga, when you realize how whiny at times Luke is compared with Anakin. Like, they really are like completely related. But yeah, no, it is great. Just not like on its own as well, but also in the context of the saga. I feel like everything that has built around Empire has gone so well. But yeah, I love that scene, the reveal in the hut. But I also love toward the end of the training when he does lift it out of the swamp, and
I was just about to say that.
I love the I never really like caught on this, but like Luke really is in such disbelief that like when it does land, he has to like slam his hand on the X-wing to like know that it's actually there to believe it. And he even like looks over at R2 like, what the like he really can't believe it. He tells Yoda as much, and Yoda,
the best quote,
so calm and like frustrated. And he's just like,
that is why you
failed.
That's
my favorite Yoda quote. It's so good.
Honestly, Yoda was the best addition to this movie and just the entire lore of Star Wars. I think not having Yoda would have taken this film and the rest of the saga in a completely different route. And also, making Yoda a puppet instead of casting a monkey to play him like they were originally planned.
Wow.
I was watching this old interview from. It was interview with this old site Movie Phone with Hayden Christensen and George Lucas for Revenge of the Sith, and they were just asking this. They were taking fan questions, and George got a question, and it tied in. Originally, Obi-Wan was going to live on into Empire to do the training stuff, but he felt that this all went behind Yoda's backstory and stuff he was going on about. Originally, Obi-Wan was going to live, but because in A New Hope, when they're all doing the Death Star stuff, a lot of the points of Obi-Wan's just kind of sitting around, not doing anything. So he wanted to give him more of a reason to have purpose by sacrificing himself in that moment. And he knew he could bring him back as a ghost for continued knowledge that he needed. But then when creating Yoda, he wanted to do it that way. And George has actually never even dove into on his own Yoda's actual origin, which fascinates me from the perspective of Mandalorian, of how they're like exploring the species. Because even George himself hasn't written anything for Yoda's species, but he also has said that he likes that he's a mystery character in that sense.
Right, and it just shows that how important characters can be to other characters in the moments that we see versus the moments that we know outside of, you know, the information that's provided. And that's why I think, like, how much screen time does Yoda have in this movie? Like,
probably solid like half hour, if not less.
What were you saying?
Yeah, probably like 25 minutes.
25 minutes? I think
less?
I think way less, right? I mean, just counting his minutes, I think
maybe
10
15
minutes at most. 10 at most.
Well, I thought it was less too, but I don't know.
Yeah, you'll be surprised about the amount of screen time people actually have in movies. Yeah, I think 10 minutes at most. 8 to 10 minutes, I think.
I mean, it's a lot of work for puppetry, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But just like how much the character impacted Luke's journey, and it's interesting you bring that whole thing up because, like, in a lot of ways, Obi-Wan's you know, the end of that fight sequence in A New Hope is so much a catalyst for Luke's whole journey in this trilogy. It's like hard to believe that Obi-Wan was going to stay alive, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would have totally changed everything about about A New Hope and about Empire. Like, I like that he had to sacrifice himself. Worked very well.
I find it interesting, even like watching it, because I know like Ben has like continued to speak with Luke in voice primarily, and he does reveal himself in a ghostly form on Hoth, but I feel like Luke was very out of it at that point. I don't know if it would even register that he's a physical form, but when he does become a physical form for real on Dagobah as Luke's leaving, Luke's really not phased at all. He's just kind of
just like, okay, cool.
He's just like, I gotta save my friends, which I think might. I wonder how much more training there really did go down and how long Luke has been there, because it's always been ambiguous.
It's always been an ambiguous thing. That's very funny. I always thought of it like a week, most.
Yeah.
That's why I always felt like it was for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
fair.
Yoda has 12 minutes and 30 seconds of screen
I
time.
was 10 minutes. I was close. Dang. 12
Nice.
minutes. Okay.
Which is crazy in a movie that's what
2 hours and 7
2
minutes.
hours long, 124 minutes.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Think how much impact Yoda has in this movie.
exactly.
Huge.
And
Yeah.
Luke has the most screen time with 34 minutes. Second up would be no, yeah, it's Han Solo and Princess Leia.
30
Han
minutes.
has more by 45 seconds.
How much
Yeah.
time does Han have?
23 minutes and 30 seconds. Leia has 22 minutes and 45 seconds. Chewie has
And that's on
16
good
minutes. Yeah, it's really good pacing too.
Oh yeah, the
Um,
the pacing of this movie is incredible. Right from the beginning, like it gets you invested. It's so tense, so good.
Poor
I
Wedge
think
has 30
it's great to
seconds.
bounce back and forth. I think it's great to bounce back and forth between the like the intense action of the whole chase of the Falcon and the Empire, but then you get to have more of those quiet moments on Dagobah to really. I mean,
Oh.
it really is echoed when they go to like
Last
Last
Jedi.
Jedi to get like the training sequences for Rey, while Canto Bite's getting destroyed.
And we forget this
Stuff like that.
movie established one of the best Star Wars romances, if not one of the best movie romances of all.
Exactly.
Absolutely,
Han
yeah.
and Leia, the best Star Wars theme. I love the Han and Leia theme so much. It's incredible.
It's so good. Yeah, Leia's theme especially is just it's so beautiful. I love that whenever they echoed it in the sequel trilogy. I like that a leitmotif of it was adapted into Ben. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
me too.
And like talk about quiet moments in Empire, like when they do get a break from the chase, and they're kind of like Leia's fixing the ship, and that whole kiss scene is just so perfect.
Mhm.
That's probably one of my favorite scenes of the
And
movie.
But is it better than the Luke Leia kiss? Please.
Oh, gosh, get out of here.
And then but which is the bigger cock block? That one for C-3PO is when C-3PO comes in during then or during Force Awakens. Goodness, Han Solo.
It's 3PO for sure. Because they're already amidst.
Yeah, it's definitely an Empire. Yeah, that was hilarious. But I love their dynamic so much. It's so beautiful. It's great. Right from the beginning of the movie, like you kind of got that in A New Hope, where Han's like, "Man, this woman's gonna be the death to me," or something like that. I forget what he says in A New Hope, but it's kind of teased there. But then it really goes full throttle straight from the beginning in Empire, like the way Leia's looking at him at the Hoth base, the way he's looking back at her, and the way like they're arguing in the Hoth base while somebody walks in between them. I love that shot. Yeah, their entire
Their dynamic's so good. Just like whenever they are arguing, it's hilarious because it's just like, oh God, you're such an idiot. Where are you going?
Yeah, especially in the beginning of the movie, like the base is literally like physically shaking, and one of my
it's falling apart all the time.
they're falling apart, and they're just like flirtatiously fighting throughout the hallway. I mean, Han is being Han.
Yeah.
Han about it. To quote.
Yeah, I love a lot of their, but like when they are trying to escape Echo Base, and that avalanche in the hallway happens, like without question, like Han actually cares because he's just like he immediately checks in like, okay, I can't move these rocks. Command, just take off. I'm getting her out on the Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's great stuff. I wrote a little part of a piece in article today that came out.
sweet.
For just like a lot of people's love about Empire for the 40th, and I went into a lot of stuff like with the Jedi training, but also like there's a strong theme of love from all the characters stretched throughout, which I think is really good. And I didn't even touch upon it in my writing, but I will say Vader isn't exempt from that as well, because like the whole scene when he takes the hologram from the Emperor, and the Emperor is just like going on about like, oh, the Skywalker's out there, we really gotta take him out. And you know, while Vader is still on the dark side, and it's like, well, maybe he could be turned. There is an aspect is like the Emperor's like, well, we have to kill him if we have to, and he's like, well, he's just a boy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he physically says that, and it's so good. And I've already heard creatives, whether it was George or Dave or someone, talk about that. Maybe it was Sam even. about how in that moment he's just like, I really don't want my son to face the same fate that I did.
See,
Stuff like that.
that's interesting. Is that what we want to picture Vader's thinking, or is that like because we know Vader's eventual redemption, so it makes sense for us to think that. But at that moment, maybe not.
See,
I mean, maybe not in 1980, but like in the whole context.
No, I meant, yeah, I'm still talking about the context. So yeah, like I don't think Vader was actually thinking that. I hope he was.
I would imagine at least the safety of his own son, because he does realize, since he heard what the son of Skywalker.
I think it's more of a like a gut, like deflective reaction. He's like, it's more like, it's just a boy, like,
he's automatically thinking of how to defeat Palpatine, like trying to turn Luke to defeat Palpatine.
Yeah, he even tells him like we could, just like when he told Padme, he's like, he's foreseen that you would destroy him, but at the same time, it's like deep down, he still wants to take out the Emperor.
Yeah, that's his main goal,
but
even in Empire.
I mean, but also
that definitely still works in the context of only 1980, because like if you just like really pay attention to go back and rewatch it with the knowledge that Luke is Vader's father, and you do pick up on these key frames that like he's just a boy, we can destroy him, stuff like that. Like he really does care about his son, and even like reaching out through the Force. He does mainly call him son a lot of times.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that real quick. Like at the very end of the movie, when as soon as they escape, I love that shot. Vader just like watches the Millennium Falcon go to hyperspace, and the way he walks back and nobody like says anything. I was like, what is I wrote it in my notes today. I was like, what is Vader thinking in that moment? Like, is he happy that his son escaped? Is he saying like maybe what's gonna happen when they meet again? It's very interesting. Even today, I'm like thinking, what is he thinking? It's very well directed.
I think in that aspect, rewatching, with how many times Vader is killing Imperials, I feel like he primarily does it because like, the Falcon got away, but like I need them to lure my son back to me.
I mean, I think he's also kind of pissed because they told him that the hyperdrive was deactivated, but R2 got the hyperdrive working, so he's also kind of pissed at his men for letting him down again.
I don't even think he's like necessarily angry. I think he's just like really like deeply thinking, and just like not the fact that like his mission failed.
Is that before or after doesn't he reach out to Luke?
That's afterwards.
Yeah, it's after. But he also like he looks away and he looks back out in space. He's like, "Oh shit, they're really gone."
Yeah, my son's gone. Like that's.
I love it.
It's so fascinating, and I love like just the whole future dynamic of like where this like Return of the Jedi goes with all that, but keeping with Empire. In my writing piece, I also going with love. I love that there's so much from each character, like that scene Evan brought up with between Han and Luke, like genuinely care there. Chewie's scream when Luke's locked out of the Hoth base, but then like when he does take off, gives him that hug. Obviously Han and Leia, the whole Vader thing I said. Also, even Obi-Wan in the sense when he was like, Luke, I don't want to lose you the way I lost.
Oh, that got me.
Yeah.
And also, it looks like I won't.
Oh yeah, good line.
Just like Last Jedi when he's like, Kylo failed you and I won't. I was like, oh wow.
Yes. Also, we have to mention, like, kind of wrap up discussion, like probably one of the best movie endings of all time. Like I love this ending. Of course we get I love the shot of Luke and Leia just standing there looking out, and I love that you get a place of like their to be siblinghood of like just where they're at, and you understand that how important they are to each other and how much they care for each other in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
We totally forgot to mention the smoothest character, Lando Calrissian.
Cold 45.
Earl Nash just makes it so funny for me. It was like, and Lando's introduction on the Earl Nash, he's like, I only got one question for you. Who wants a beer? But yeah, his introduction is so good because just from what they give us, that they have a history, which I'm so glad they kind of explained in Solo. But like he's still mad he took his ship, but at the end of the day, they're still friends, and like I completely side with Lando on like him having to double cross them for the Empire because
For
like
the sake of the city, yeah.
for the sake of the city, because like you, because they don't exactly tell you, but you can just infer the kinds of things that they kind of threatened Lando with. Like hell, even just like just by like debating a bargain, just like, oh, I want it would be bad if I left the garrison here. Come on, just give them to me.
I think this film is like super rewarding for rewatch with like after like a first time viewing, because like another point of focus I was like thinking about was with Lando and like how I know he's like didn't want to do this, but then like you really seen a lot of elements how he's just like really uncomfortable with having to give up his friend, like whether he's standing outside of Han's torture room or just like moving through the city, just like hearing the deal getting altered.
It directly tears apart his like facade of like how confident he is.
Mm-hmm.
And you see him kind of deteriorate to the point. I love the little moment where they like take over the stormtroopers, where he like taps his little comm link or
robot. Robot's like, I've been coming.
It's so good. And also like especially the point of when he's talking with Vader about the carbonite thing, and he's just like I don't know if your prize is even gonna survive this, and he's just Vader's just like, well, it's fine, we'll test it on Captain Solo, and he just freezes.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. And then you see Han's reaction. He's like, hey man, what are they talking about? And then it's like, oh, you're gonna go into carbon freeze. And the way he looks at Leia, like, oh, well.
But he's like, he's still pissed. He's like, what's going on, buddy?
Yeah,
I know. It's like, it's so heartbreaking because it's like, this could be where, if I'm in 1980, I'm like, this could be where Han Solo dies. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
And
I think
Harrison Ford wanted.
I think that's an interesting thing. Like with like, I know like the big takeaway to pop culture was just like in that time frame was like Lando's a traitor, but when you like really rewatch it, like especially like when they're all in the prison cell, like Lando comes in to check on them, and he's like trying to break down like, okay, I know this is a horrible situation, but
I can explain.
like I know like Leia and Chewie have to stay here, but at least they will be safe. And he's like trying to like lay out. Like,
he's the communicator of all these situations. He has to go back and forth between both these situations of kind of like cordially getting by in front of Vader and not trying to be like overly emotional and compassionate, honestly. But then he's trying to, navigate a way through that to kind of still have compassion towards his friends. And it's so interesting to watch.
Totally.
I think it's No, yeah, go ahead.
I was about to say it's kind of like an emotional roller coaster with Lando, because I remember some of my early watches of the movie, I always hated the character because of the way he betrayed Han and crew, especially right after he betrays Han. Then you get that scene with Han getting tortured, and all you hear is like screams and just pain and agony coming from Han's voice. Didn't even ask him any questions, and that just makes it even more like, man, I really hate that Lando guy. This wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for him. But then you get to start to like him as soon as he starts helping out with the crew, gets Lobot in there. It's like an emotional roller coaster.
Chewie didn't know. Chewie was like right ahead, just choking.
And I was with Chewie at that moment. I'm like, yeah, choke him. But
even Leia's like, oh, I get it. Yeah, he had no choice. What do you guys think of in context of today in terms of like viewing points in different contexts with new stories, like in the instance of 3PO saying your ship has a peculiar dialect, knowing that
there's just so much added. Just like
totally.
The reason I love Solo is because it adds backstory. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd be fine without a backstory to Han Solo, but they did it well, and I'm glad. It was like watching like episode 5, watching Empire Strikes Back, seeing Han and Lando together. You can easily see. I can see Donald Glover and Alden Ehrenreich in that.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
It's weird, but like they do it well. Like I can just see it, and then the way they added L3 with a peculiar dialect, that was also good too.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I was picking up on today, like in the context of Leia, because we know by the end of the film that she has that force connection with Luke mentally, But she also like it was in one of the runs of the Star Wars comics when she visits Naboo, she got that presence feeling of Darth Maul.
Yeah.
I kind of like I took a notice of like at one point to that, like when they're in the carbon chamber and she just sees Vader and she kind of has a recoil. Now that could like go to two things. Like it could go to just because she was tortured by the probe droid in the New Hope.
Mhm.
And I guess like that's how it would be viewed back then. But like, and it's interesting from a Force context now of just like because that is her father, but she doesn't really know, and even Vader doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's a sense there.
It's funny you say that, Nathan, because that moment really stuck with me on this last rewatch today too. The way she just looks at him like in terror and confusion. It's like it's a lot of mixed emotions there. One of the things I was going to bring up in terms of new material is the rise of Kylo Ren. Not the rise of Kylo Ren. The Age of Resistance Kylo Ren comic book where Kylo goes to Dagobah. And just like Brandon was talking about, you take only what you take with you, something like that, for the whole hut scene. When Ben goes in there, he sees visions of Han and Leia as well as Luke, and he tries to kill Luke, but he can't kill Han and Leia, and then he destroys the tree.
Yeah, I think it was initially it was Luke, and like he had the hatred for Luke for sure, and like that was no issue. But it was when he was take what you have with you, and what he has there is the love of his parents.
Exactly.
But also he's living in the fear of Snoke that he doesn't want to fail, because already like from the start of that, like wasn't it the whole test like he got like slapped across the face and like
slapped and he got thrown off a cliff. So
so he doesn't want to fail this dude, so he's like, all right, well he's gonna screw it, the whole thing down.
Yeah, fake it till you make it.
Just like the hut. That's great. I want like real quick touch on like how like the further adapting of the Force, like the introduction of new abilities and elements to it. Because like jumping off a New Hope is very laid back with the Force. Like there's not a single like even like we think the most common thing of the Force is a Force push or a pull. That's not even in the New Hope. Like at most you have like a
Jedi mind trick.
Yeah, you have a mind trick and like a voice and like the sense to like make a good. Like, essentially, you could say like it would make you better at like shooting basketball hoops. Like,
well, I mean, also you'd just be able to like connect with the surroundings even without seeing. Just like when he's training with the ball, like
good at like the sense of like what's around you and like the lay of the land.
Mm-hmm. I'm just glad I'm glad it just barely broke the ice in A New Hope, and because it just made it so much better to add more story and runtime to Empire Strikes Back. It's able to expand on everything, add character to everyone.
Yeah, because back in like the 80s mindset of watching for the first time, you just think like Luke's just hanging from ice, like, oh, how's he gonna get out? And the Force pull happens, like, you can do that? Like, yeah, that's such a tiny thing in hindsight, but like you can do that, and then like soon after, Ben's in the sky, like that's like the whole aspect of a Force ghost is fascinating. But I do think the best stuff really comes with the sense of the dark side cave and just the Force itself manifesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that, like, and like the season 1 of Rebels when they first get to the temple, when I did my rewatch, was like that. Really, like a whole like expansion of the dark side cave for a full episode, which I absolutely, it's one of my favorites. And like another instance of like what you take with you. I'm sure Luke would have faced Vader the same, but like I know from the confrontation of Ezra and the Inquisitor, like even like had the saber struck Luke, he wouldn't have really taken any damage, I don't think.
No.
It's fascinating how the Force like works to test people. It's one of like the big factors I'm trying to focus on in this stop motion project I'm working on.
Right. It's like it's like the Force has its own universal will, so to speak, but everyone has their own personal journeys and obstacles with it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes like it makes it like so unique in how it challenges each individual, because it forces them to do different things. Not to make a pun.
Yeah,
but.
and I think like Rebels might be like the best exploration for stuff.
It really is,
but
dude.
It is, but yeah, like even with like Empire, I feel like the Force itself, like it knows the set destiny it needs to get backtrack on to bring balance to itself, but it can't always do it on its own. Like sometimes
Right.
it helps out, like in the forms of like wolves and stuff, but like you have to affect the characters of the physical realm to make those decisions themselves. So you have to test them.
Agreed.
Right. And it's like it goes through the whole, like, that kind of rationale goes throughout the entire saga down to like even thinking about like the rise of Kylo Ren comics. Like I can't remember which issue it is. They're like the guy standing there and there's like, you can walk this way or you can walk this way. You know, it's like always that choice or that nudge in a direction in the present world versus how the Force is impacting everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know we got to end soon, but I just got to say, like, the fight scene between Luke and Vader is iconic, right?
Yes.
Like, this might be my favorite,
I can't believe we haven't mentioned.
It might be my favorite fight scene in all of cinema. Like, next to Return of the Jedi, I always flip flop between which one's better, Return or the Empire fight.
Me too.
They're just so perfect.
I've always said a lightsaber fight is as good as its emotional conflict between them. It's not just like the locking of blades. It's the meaning behind the strikes. And like, you know, when you have the different mindset of like, it's Luke who, like, his mentor was killed by this man and he wants to face him, but then from Vader's standpoint, like, this is my son, I'm testing him.
He's testing him while also trying to give off like dialogue, which is great. And I love how like progressively it gets more of an aggressive fight, and then towards the end, when Luke finally, like, when he flies out the window, that scene right after that, Vader's just pissed. He's done.
Going off.
He's just ready to end it. He's just like slashing and whacking, smacking, like, bro.
I love that point in the hallway, when Luke is just kind of like sneaking through it, and Vader, it's a straight up jump scare.
It's a horror movie.
Like there was no sense of breath whatsoever until there's a quick breath once he like slams down and he's just wailing on him back.
And Luke just barely hits him. He's like, "Yep, I'm done."
He taps his shoulder and it's like, okay, like he made it that far, but like that's enough. I got
to I gotta take her hand now.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, but we got the tech. It's fine.
So
necessary in his eyes, but yeah, it's fantastic. And that whole confrontation at the end, like not just the father reveal, but also Luke. He doesn't know there's any sense of safety down that shaft. He just self-sacrifices.
He'd rather die than join.
That also shows that he took to heart what Obi-Wan and Yoda had said. Like, he knows, like, he would be used for the dark will of the galaxy, and he's not going to let that happen. So he just sacrifices himself.
Which brings me to Return of the Jedi. Okay, if Vader didn't cut off his hand, because, you know, when Luke just like cuts Vader's arm off in Return of the Jedi, remember his deciding factor to not turn to the dark side was to see Vader's robotic arm and then look at his robotic hand. Do you think if he didn't have a robotic hand, do you think he would have ended up turning, not and then realizing that like him and his father were kind of alike?
I think it's circumstantial to really, if he can like really, because he's always been like fighting for his father throughout that film, and he did start losing himself. He would have had to like lock on to something that he knows he's becoming like just like his father.
It's like the Dagobah Force vision. So even without the hand thing, I think he would have even thought back to the Dagobah vision of himself being Vader and been like, okay, crap, this can't happen.
Yeah, and even
like he sees he's giving into the machine of a destiny that everyone thinks they have set out for.
I think the only like thing that would have changed that instance of Return of the Jedi is not like him losing the hand, but if Luke loses it all, because he straight up does lose the battle. He loses there, but like he is basically pinned to the ground just like he does to Vader. And with Palpatine just like right behind him, just like whispering those evil nothings in his ears. You know, it's just like I feel like that is something like he starts to attune with.
But all starts with Empire. it all like it. I think Return of the Jedi is so rewarding because of how Luke has evolved from Empire and all the stuff in Empire that kind of investigates him as a character, and it just it makes the third film in the trilogy such a payoff. And that moment where Luke throws it down, it's like it throws a saber down. It's like that's what makes that payoff so awesome, is because
and
line that Brandon was talking about of all these things that we kind of have the seeds for in Empire, of like all these little hints and morals and kind of things that Luke has to deal with, and pleasing Obi-Wan and Yoda, yet saving his friend. It's just like he's in the crosshairs of all these things, and it all just starts kind of an Empire to get deeper into these things.
Yeah, which also supplants the seeds of why he would run away come Force Awakens time, because of like that shame of the relapse.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic. It's perfect for the saga.
Before we wrap up, can we talk about the special edition changes of how, like, because like everyone complains about the special edition changes, but Empire Strikes Back, all the special edition changes make the film better. There isn't any scene altering changes of Han shooting second or anything like that. It's
of current update 2011 now.
Yeah,
because there were some prior, like when Luke like actually screams down the shaft.
Yeah,
like,
that was
in the 2004. They're like 2004. When Luke falls, he screams. They added but which takes away the whole.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard that.
I'm gonna link it to you.
I wish they would. I wish they would fix Vader's no in Jedi, but sticking with Empire. There's a lot of great, like, even just like it, because all the changes are minor, like when Lando's on the intercom saying "attention, citizen," like he says "attention" twice instead of once. They've added windows to Cloud City to make it feel more open, more exterior shots type stuff. There was one shot of the Wampa arm swinging by that had the sleeve of the operator outside of it that they recovered up.
Fix that.
Like that.
And then most of it, like texture of Cloud City, how Cloud City looks when they come in. It's just that brightened up a little bit, but
Yeah, and they added that one little clip of Vader walking to a shuttle, because I guess in the original cut he moves from Cloud City to already on the destroyer.
Oh, interesting! I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I like that.
They added a new scene of him going to a shuttle, and I think
it's a great shot.
I think the voice, he has one line of dialogue. I don't think it actually is James Earl Jones, but it sounds just like him. So it's
prepare my Star Destroyer from.
Prepare
for my arrival. I'm like, it's fucking awesome.
Very specific. I don't know when the hell they even shot that, because I imagine it'd be like later down the line, but I guess probably 97 or something.
So that whole thing is new too.
Yeah, that whole walk to the shuttle.
I didn't know the voiceover was new too, but okay.
Yeah, the voiceover is new.
Awesome.
But it's
no. That was actually that was pre-filmed, because he originally said "prepare my shuttle."
Okay.
It's interesting. Tech nerd stuff. Let's go. Great visual effects, of course. To touch on, like all the stop motion effects and miniatures. I imagine, like, when you look at like so many films that were pretty laid back, and like especially like 1980 just getting out of the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And you have them flipping all around asteroids and the TIE fighters moving. Like that's a lot, dude. That's a lot of rigs. That's just like a new tech.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it brings us all the way forward to this. I think it was last week's Mandalorian doc. We're like, let's go around the table and name things that George Lucas invented. Like, it's insane how much.
I know even the
as a whole changed everything.
He literally introduced motion capture.
Yeah, and I even know like the effects of lightsabers that we know today was like really like personified to its perfection in Empire compared to A New Hope. And I've stated this, that like Empire really kicks off the specific look of every Star Wars film thereafter, because you look at A New Hope, it is very indie-esque. The way it's shot and how the whole thing was saved in the edit, but I especially noticed in like the planetary shots of just like the way the atmosphere of the orbit of the planets look that have like hit all the way up to Revenge of the Sith. Of course, so you got like that new specific look of brand new technology that has evolved between 2005 and 2015 to the Disney era, but it still looks pretty solid and on point to like that same aspect. But I especially see like this shift in it with Rogue One for the good, but like you like really like Empire's viewpoint of like the way things are shot, the way like you move around planets and stuff was really established thereafter.
Visual language of Star Wars, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so revolutionary for not just Star Wars itself, but also film as a whole. It was a great door opener to the expansion of the galaxy, to like so many possibilities to jump off of, whether it is through the routes of the Force and Jedi training or through the realm of smuggling and like the different underbelly type worlds you would explore with these different creatures and stuff, all that. The inner workings of like war with rebellion, empire, stuff like that. And all ships, creatures, everything. It's so fascinating, and it's like it's the definitive reason why it's like considered one of the greatest films of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I think that's a good place to leave off there. We have hit hour 51 at this point. It is about 3 a.m. It was great talking about this.
This is crazy.
But, okay, well, that's cool because like at that point, then we have officially been talking for a straight hour.
We forgot to mention. Mention another classic line.
Wow.
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Anyway.
No, but yeah, no. Okay.
Classic.
No, yeah, there's a lot, just some lines, but we won't dive into it. That's a wrap on our show. It was a fantastic time as always. Great chatting with the crew. Brandon, where can they quote you?
You guys can find me at Phantasmic Ears, FANTASMIC Ears on Twitter. Tweet about Star Wars, tweet about cinema, tweet about more Star Wars, tweet about Disney, all that good stuff. So follow me over there. It's another great episode. Glad I was able to finally talk about my favorite Star Wars movie, celebrate the 40th anniversary of it. And yeah, another great episode. Looking forward to this new Mando doc. I might watch it here in a second. But yeah, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts coming soon. But yeah, make sure to check us out, guys. Thanks for watching.
Evan, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at HarrisEV9. It's crazy how we keep doing this. This had no reason to be the longest episode. But I love talking about my favorite movie of all time as well, Empire Strikes Back. It's just incredible. We could have talked about this for 3 hours. But yep, find me on Twitter. That's it.
And Carson, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at The Force Critic and finding us here as we become a sequel to The Empire Strikes Back. And as we become a feature-length film. But yeah, great show as always. And hopefully I've been catching up on I've been reading a New Dawn more finally. And I still want to do a Resistance review sometime. And I think we're going to kind of have some downtime with No More Clone Wars and stuff. So hopefully we get those out soon. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to keep talking about Star Wars and hoping you guys are enjoying these episodes. Catch you next time.
I'd actually love for Nathan to, real fast. I'd love for Nathan to get through to watch all of the Resistance so we can dedicate not a full episode but a segment to it where we can all talk spoilers. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that'd be great.
Absolutely. I have a plan. I am going to react to Resistance because I really want to do that. So I'm gonna be kicking that up real soon. I did want to ask Carson, hey, how's Certain Point of View going?
I read. Which one did I read? Hold on, I have the book.
He didn't read anything. Spoiler alert. He just making excuses the whole time.
No, I read the.
That's my book. No.
we're all in the same house, by the way.
Yeah, we're all just in different rooms.
Oh yeah, I read The Bucket by Christy Golden, which is about a stormtrooper who's on the ship in the beginning of the New Hope, and about them capturing Leia, and he actually takes off and goes to planet side on Tatooine, because he's so uncomfortable with like how everything is being handled in the Empire, and kind of like, oh, it's kind of like a Finn moment of like, oh, this is not what I signed up for, because his like leading officer dude like dies, and then he's in command, and he's just like, it's pretty crazy. And then it like ends with like Leia kind of looking back at him, and just it's a nod between them of just like, wow. Leia kind of just knows that he kind of realized what he's gotten himself into, and it's just very interesting. Highly recommend, though. I'll maybe have more read next week.
Apparently, every piece of canon just makes me think about Rebels now, so that's great. Rebels is so good. But yeah, with that being said, you can find all of us, our social medias, everything linked in the description below. New episodes every time this week. That being said, guys, if you did enjoy the podcast, hit the like button, subscribe if not already. And that being said, hope you have a great day. May the force be with you always.